Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm happy to be here, and thank you guys for organizing this wonderful event. So my name is Dan Bogos. I'm part of CGRateS team. So about ourselves, just to understand how we started, few words about the company. We are located in Germany, in Bavaria. Over 10 years of experience with architecting server-side solutions in VoIP environment. We started pretty early with SIP. Also, we were doing before HT23, some SS7. So quite some years has passed already. We got platform implementations covering both wholesale as well as retail. And due to that, we consider that we are responsibly understanding the seriousness of live system outages. So it's a topic which we take it for real, and we have put all our thoughts into CGRateS project. CGRateS came up as out of our need to provide a solution to our customers. Having the installations, they were requiring more and more traffic to be processed. We were installing more and more load balancers, and at some point the old billing systems did not properly handle it anymore, so we needed to think about a solution which was able to help them with it. So this is how CGRateS came up. What's CGRateS? It's a real-time enterprise billing suite. So it's a fancy name, but in reality, it contains some components which you can use in online charging. It's designed to be customizable, so you can treat it as a framework. You can do way more than rating. Rating was initial thing which we started, and then we added more things. This is how actually also fraud detection came in. Since we are dealing with CDRs, we are aware about call states. We came in need also to control the fraud, because everybody knows how serious fraud is. CGRateS is designed to be pluggable into existing infrastructure, so you are not forced to route your traffic through our switch or change your infrastructure in order to use CGRateS. It's designed to also accommodate new components easily into your network, and it's also non-intrusive. So all what we do is we exchange information with the switches. For example, in Asterisk case, we simply exchange channel information over ARI, and we give up after, if you use authorization with CGRateS, we pass back the control to your dial plan. So we just monitor externally the calls. It's an open source software. We don't play tricks. Full sources are available on GitHub. No add-ons in private repository. And there is an ever-growing community behind. You should know that we treat the part with open source seriously, because we consider that the billing, like security, it's safer with community than in a closed environment. So we count a lot on the quality assurance from the community side, and bug detection, it works great having a community. It's a performance-oriented project. We have some advanced caching system built in. We work almost almost never with disk. So we cache the information as much as possible. We have all sorts of mechanisms built in there in the cache. So for example, transactional cache. So if you load your pricing and in the middle something goes wrong, we can revert the cache. We have this LRU, which if you don't know about it, it's least resource used. So you all the time have the hot items in the cache. So we auto expire things which are not used. We also have TTL support, so we can time out stuff inside cache. A use case for that could be this big roaming databases, and with porting number portability databases, and you can auto expire them, so you don't need to query often your source for this number portability database. You can cache them and keep them for a while, and automatically the system will destroy them after a period of time. And all what we do, it's asynchronous, and we do it within what Golang, because the whole software is written in Go. We do it within microthreads, so we don't suffer from system threads limitation. You can scale millions of microthreads without having serious issues. Coming back to Go, we are one of the oldest projects, I think, written in Go. We started when Go was in early weekly release, what they call. So that was in 2011 when we started CGRateS. So we took quite some risk going forward with but we understood the potential of Go, and also the fact that Google is sitting behind. Our project is test-driven. We stopped counting at about 2,000 tests. So this is also the secret why we can run the project with a relatively small team of developers. Every time before committing, we go through an integration test process, and also we are supervised by Travis, if you know, on GitHub. So we do this also seriously. CGRateS has a modular architecture. It's built on microservices, so you can have one machine or more. It doesn't matter for the system itself. You can simply spread out your what we call engine and bring up one or more services or daemons within the same process. Our components can talk between themselves either over RPC or also internally within process. And this is quite abstract because the communication was written in such way that they don't see whether they go over public socket or over internal. So this is why you can scale very easily without modifying much other than few lines in the config file. It's feature rich. We are what others are calling online charging system. We are also offline charging system, so you can also work as classic billing. Multi-tenancy, we support it from day one. We have a rating engine with what we call derived charging. This is useful if you are doing or if you want to make multiple prices for the same call. So you can have pricing for your distributors, for his customers, for your suppliers, so you automatically can see your margins, and all this in real time. So your distributor, since we do all in each fork in a micro thread, we can bill your distributor per minute, for example, and your supplier per second. And if any of these are running out of money, or if you set a threshold on your supplier, the calls can really disconnect in real time, depending on who needs them. Account balance management with bundles, we are pretty good with that too. We support or we are used mostly in MVNOs who need a lot of bundle stuff. So you can combine minutes to a destination, data bundles, SMS bundles, as many bundles you like. It has there are no limits what you put in an account. Then we do session or event charging with balance reservation and refunds. CDR logging with support for interim records. Fraud detection, what I will talk about today with automatic mitigation. LCR, particularly to LCR, we do LCR over bundles, so you can get from your supplier like 1,000 minutes, which can be used only during weekend for free, for example, and the LCR system can know that, can understand that, and can use it in your routes when it generates them, which is, it can be quite useful. And we also support QoS inside LCR. You can, via this mechanism, you can route to the best quality suppliers, or you can set thresholds. I want to route to the cheaper supplier, but whose ASR, ACD is not lower than my thresholds. Call statistics, so you can in real time calculate call statistics for your traffic. So, for example, this ASR, but since it's all in memory, this is also very fast, and there is no limit on the number of statistics which you calculate. You can do ASR for the last 1 hour, last 1 day, last 1 year of this customer, of the other customer. So you can configure, because in the end there are some objects in memory and some filters. So the whole setup, it should be doing good for you. We have diameter and radius server integration, and we have their standard agnostic. You configure the logic which you want. We have resource allocation controller, so if you need to control the channels of your customers or of the suppliers, you can do that. Per destination, again, per account, there are any filters which you want to put based on your events. We have built-in high availability support, and we are pretty passionate about developing new feature. So I'm telling this not really as a marketing, but I'm trying to show you what you get through integration between CGRateS and Asterisk, since you're not buying this, you need just to use it. Regarding evolution, as you see, one of our first commits were before 2012, and ever since we have pushed code, and I would say continuously developing it. We have reached now a close point in time when the architecture is stable, because all this project was a bit of research project at the beginning, since there were not, or at least we know, not about people doing it in open source, like online charging in open source. So in the end, the architecture got stable. The project is used in production. So we have a customer ranging from a few thousand of users up to the most serious customer has around 600,000 prepaid users on CGRateS, peaking sometimes 50,000 simultaneous sessions. So there is quite some processing over there. Yeah. Regarding Asterisk integration, we do, or we can do it in multiple ways. One of it would be the real-time event monitor via ARI. For this, we published also an open source library, Aringo, we call it. You can fork it, use it. It's on GitHub. It's quite flexible. If you are a Go developer, we try to stay out of logic, so we didn't encapsulate a lot of logic inside. We wanted just to be a translator between your code and Asterisk. The communication is secure. The calls will not be authorized, or this is of course configurable, but the calls will not be authorized if CGRateS is not operational. So if you have prepaid calls, you can be sure that they will not go through unless CGRateS checks them. We can also generate CDRs out of ARI events, and you can also feed in extra fields. So not only the basic field, if you want to, you can put extra fields from status attributes. This is one way you can integrate. Second would be decouple CDR processing. So if you are not interested about real time, although I don't know many who are nowadays not interested anymore, you can do decoupled CDR processing. You can feed CSV files generated by something like CDR CSV module. There is also a link where you can understand the integration. There is a tutorial there. We try to keep all this up to date. If anything missing or is not well explained, please don't hesitate to shout on us on mailing list. Regarding rating and accounting, you get, as I told you, highly configurable rating. You get all this fancy stuff, connect fees, rate units, rate increments, rate grouping, aid number rating. So once you are in need, I'm not going too much into rating because we are here to talk about the fraud, but most of we hardly find things which are not implemented there. And it was also our original module, what we started with. Regarding accounts, you can have unlimited balances per account. We call balances what others are calling bundles. You can have voice, you can have data, SMS, MMS, monetary, like money, and also you can have generic. If you need to sell cars, you would use generic one. The good thing about this is that you can also integrate multiple systems. So you have your Asterisk box selling minutes, and then you can have your SMS gateway selling SMSs, and then you have your, I don't know, your data streaming selling, I don't know, music or something. You can feed the information from all over the place into CGRateS. In terms of switching, as I thought, we support most of open source softwares out there. So we do Asterisk, we do Camaillio, we do OpenSIPs, we do FreeSwitch, and we also do Diameter and Radius. Plus, you have also APIs to feed data from your own translators. So if you want to convert from your own switch, or proprietary switch, then you can simply write a simple translator between their events and CGRateS events and just feed information via RPC. We do concurrent session handling in Session Manager. There you have the possibility to do balance reservation in chunks of debit intervals. So every 10 seconds you can debit more, and you have also the opportunity to do balance refunds. So if the customer you have reserved, let's say 1 minute, and he only speaks 15 seconds, we will refund back automatically. And we also have we know how to do debit slip when needed. So, for example, if you have a debit interval of 10 seconds and you have charge per minute, then we know from these 10 seconds up to a minute, we don't need to loop anymore. So we optimize a bit. LCR, you can access it internally or remotely, so you can use as a standalone LCR server, which you can query via RPC as well. So it can work with Asterisk, of course, but it can also work standalone. So from your application, you can make RPC calls to CGRateS, and it can give you back a list of suppliers. It can be also non-intrusive if it operates in real time. So it can inject supplier information into the switch, like Asterisk. It's tightly coupled with the counting subsystem. It can provide this LCR over bundles. It also integrates traffic patterns. So if you, at, I don't know, 5 p.m., you know that you have an ACD of 3.5 minutes, you can configure the LCR to query the 3.5 minutes instead of per minute LCR. And this can also help you. There are a lot of algorithms to calculate LCR, each considering different parameters. So least cost, highest cost, if anybody wants, I don't know, to screw his boss or something. QoS thresholds, QoS load distribution, and there are also flexible strategy parameters. CDR server, it's a real-time. Again, it has interfaces. I'll show you a drawing. It has interfaces from many places. It can also do offline CDR imports. So you can have your Asterisk instance running with real-time traffic and billing your customers, and you can also feed the CDRs received from your suppliers just to do reconciliation, for example. So you can have as many folders as you want with as many templates as you want because it's a generic one. You tell the system to pick from some indexes in a file in the end. So also we have support for dynamic fields via import templates. CDR exporter, it's able to do, this is also an interesting thing, it's able to do online triggering, online exports. So you can end up with each CDR coming from Asterisk via ARI, hitting CGRateS, being built and being exported to the destination you want. It can be, the destination can be HTTP server, or it can be RabbitMQ server. So in this way, we do something like a rating queue, and you don't need to modify your existing infrastructure. If you already have a database where you keep your CDRs, and you already have your billing system, it's very easy to integrate in that way because you will pick up from the server where we push the CDRs, and you can drop them in your existing database. So there is no requirement that you use our database. And it's, again, fast because it works. It takes about few milliseconds to have the CDR already rated from Asterisk. So it's like you are receiving CDRs from Asterisk, but already rated via these online exports. There are, as you see, multiple mechanisms. You can export to file. So even online, you can drop the CDRs in a file like Asterisk will do, but the only difference is that they will be already rated when you drop them there. And there is also export templates. So you can decide which fields you send out when you do the exports. You can, in this way, even send the CDRs live streamed to your distributors or directly to your customers. So they get the CDRs rated in real time, because you can do as many templates as you want. The system will go through each template and will send out CDRs and will fork multiple. So one incoming CDR, 1 million out is no problem. Then there is the resource allocation controller. Can be used also outside of CGRateS scope if you just want to monitor your resources and decide when there are not any more channels available for your customers. You have a full set of APIs there. It's, again, performance driven. Just that you can imagine, we are doing between 2,000 and 5,000 requests per second in terms of processing. So one CGRateS server should be able to handle quite some asterisk boxes. We were having in plans, and still have, but we didn't find the right network yet, to also have a load balancer in order to even increase more than 5,000 requests per second. But so far, honestly, we did not find a carrier to do that. And then, we do indexing of fields, of matching filters, so you can send generic events to this resource server, and it will dynamically match filters. So that gives you freedom in configuring it. Stats server, it's able to compute stat metrics. As I told you, you can do this ASR ACD, also have, as you will see, have ability to monitor it via thresholds. Thresholds, it's another subsystem. You can monitor and react on event values. It's performance oriented. It's all this stuff is done in cache again. Multiple value can be monitored within a threshold instance. We have a false negative protection built in, so you can tell, I only want to know the statistics after a number of CDRs. So I don't want that the first CDR with a small usage will trigger me bad ACD notification. We have floating protection as well, so you can have your thresholds recurrent or non-recurrent. You can have a sleeping time when they will be not executed anymore. So you don't float. If you want, for example, to monitor the stats of your supplier, ASR ACD, and send him email when his stats are dropping. So maybe you want to send him email and send your NOC email. You don't want to do that often because you'll not look that professional in his eyes anymore. So you can configure an escalation procedure. So there is some flexibility over there. You have actions on threshold match, which can be executed. This is, I will also explain during the fraud mechanism. This is a drawing showing you how an example of CDR processing goes on. You can get the CDRs from CGR-SM, which is the component with doing session management. This will also talk to Asterisk, feed the CDRs into the server, and this will go through some modules where you can do, for example, aliasing of some information, grab some user data from it, and rate it, and then send it to stats in order to check like fraud and stuff like that. Store it, but it's optionally, and then we can send it out, as I told you, via the online replication mechanism. Regarding fraud, this was a more recent survey done by an entity here in US, CFCA, if you know about them. This was done in 2013, and they were estimating about 38 billion fraud losses. And this, in their vision, was about a little less than 2% of global telecom revenue. So it was an 18, the good part was that it was like 18% decrease from 2000, I think 11, oh sorry, this was in 2015, the previous one was in 2013. So it's like a 2 years old survey, so quite actual, I would say. But what I wanted to show is that there was a decrease, and that happened for a reason. People started caring a bit more on this subject. This is also why we came up to it, because in order to fight fraud, I know only two ways. One is to take measure, and one is to give up. So there is, for me, no middle way. So what we chose was that we fight with it. What they estimated the top fraud methods was, first of it was PBX hacking, and I think this is where it touches us the most. You can see almost 4 billion in PBX hacking. I don't know, maybe you are secure already enough, but this a bit gives like an earthquake to me when I see these numbers. Again, also IPBX hacking, the same story. It was a 67% increase because it's so easily reachable for them. The VoIP switches are so easily reachable in internet. And there were some other, like subscription fraud, dealer fraud, and these are not really touching us that much. Types of fraud: international revenue shared fraud, interconnect bypass, premium rate service, arbitrage, theft, and so on. What was important for us was that we can cover all the type of frauds in one place, in the billing application, in the application which is able to understand the calls and monitor them in real time, and also react on it in real time. How do we fight fraud within CGRateS? One of it is part of accounting. You can put there static thresholds monitoring account activity. So you can say each hour this account it's expected to use like maximum, I don't know, $50. As soon as he goes over $50 in usage, something is not right, because his profiles should show me that this is unexpected activity. So this is first place where we detect account. We also monitor account calls, and we are also able to say if he had a number of minutes above a certain usage. This is also a sign of fraud. So you can configure all these templates and also send out and do reactions, so do real mitigation. The stats, it's another place where you can configure it. You can have metric thresholds, so you can say when average call cost for this supplier or customer is in 1 hour or in 1 day or 1 week above a certain level, to me this sounds strange and I want to be notified. And if I don't react, maybe I set another threshold that as soon as the account activity increases, as soon as traffic activity increases, then I want to automatically disable completely that account. So it can happen over weekend, your stuff is not there. The CGRateS can take actions automatically for you if you have configured it in that way. Then you can have also dynamic filters matching, checking other stats profiles. So you can have thresholds saying if ACD is that amount and ASR for another supplier or another day was another value, I take actions. And by combining this number of rules, you can go towards even auto-detecting and having a self-healing network, implementing what's a trendy topic, artificial intelligence in your detection. So because this dynamic filtering has not many limits in the way which you can combine them. Also, resource monitoring you can do. It has its own thresholds. You can have usage counter thresholds, so you can say if the channels is hitting 90% usage in a specific at a specific point in time, so or specific interval, then this is also strange to me because I gave them I don't know 100 channels, but I don't expect the 100 channels to be used in the middle of the night. So that's another way to fight and detect fraud. Again, also here you can combine it. So you can say if this channel usage is 90% in the middle of the night, and if the stats on this supplier are this high, then react. So you can do you have a lot of pieces of puzzles which you can play with. So talking a bit more about account fraud mitigation, it's the most popular and simple way to do it. So you can, it's also simple to manage. I see that I have not much time anymore, so I'll go a bit faster. You have static thresholds as well, and you can execute actions. I'll also make my slides available after the talk. Regarding account monitoring, you can see that it's checking thresholds, and this can be synchronous things, so it cannot be avoided. The call cannot go through unless these thresholds are not hit, because if the thresholds are hit, they will go a series of actions. So it can be disabling account, posting account data, and emailing account, or whatever you choose to do. And yeah, you can see, you can configure, this is the way actually you can configure stuff. You can either do it via APIs or feed data over the classic CSV. Some use cases for accounting warn when monetary balance goes below $2, or disable the account when there is a top-up higher than $100. Inform support when cost on Cuba destination gets higher. Cuba destination gets higher than $50 in 1 hour. Escalate notification when cost on Cuba destination gets higher than $75 in an hour, and so on. Regarding stats, is inform a customer when his total call cost is higher than $75 on premium numbers or stuff like that. So I try to rush it a bit. So I don't know, do we still have time for questions?
Time for a couple questions, yeah.
Okay, then if anybody questions, I know it's a lot of information. Please go ahead.
Might as well.
So this is great for someone who runs their own platform, who wants to integrate with billing and are tracking this type of thing. But what about if you're white labeling carriers? So, you know, there's plenty of groups like that for telex and things like that, and people are going directly to the carrier that you're wholesaling with under your own account, and then they may or may not have fraud prevention, and you'd want to integrate something like CGRateS. So do you integrate with other carriers that like you could use the CGRateS API like from?
So CGRateS, it's a standalone engine, so it's like Asterisk. If you can make them inform you, or if they have any kind of kickback APIs during the calls, if they give you access to call monitoring, you can use this information, convert it into RPC, and feed it into CGRateS.
So you'd have to do it yourself. You'd have to download real-time CDRs from your carrier and then feed it into your own engine.
You need in some way.
You don't have a cloud, you know, API.
No, because this is not really a software hosted in a cloud. It's a software which you run on your own, right, whether you run it in your own cloud or locally. Or
makes sense.
Sure. Yes, please.
One more question.
Okay, just kind of with a little extension from his question. Like, let's say I wanted to put like a proxy in between is there something that I can configure easy with a SIP proxy and that could broker the connections and I could have all the records and it would be 100% automatic?
Yeah, well, you can, of course, put a SIP proxy inside, like something like OpenSIPs or Camaillio, and we support them both. And you can also have, not really officially released, but it's very close to be released. You can have something like Homer sniffing your traffic and feeding data into CGRateS. And in this way, you get passive billing built in.
So then I could see PCAPs too.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan, thanks very much.
Thank you.
If you have any
Appreciate
further
it.
questions for Dan, you can see him afterwards.